In 1991, White House speechwriter Rena Peterson was skimming through a newspaper when her eye was caught by a story about a political prisoner in Burma, who played piano for hours at a time to keep her mind occupied during the long, lonely days. The lady had advocated for democracy and human rights in her country. The ruling military junta of Burma continually harassed her and placed her under house arrest, and was so cruel as to destroy her piano. She was named Aung San Suu Kyi. 12 years later, Peterson arrived in Rangoon to interview her, and soon published a biography. Aung San Suu Kyi was born June 19, 1945, in Rangoon, British Burma, to Aung San and Chin Kyi. Though no one could have predicted it at the time, the budding family, and especially the newborn baby girl and her father, would be a force for change in their country for a century to come. In 1947, her father led Burma in a successful crusade for independence from Britain. He then worked tirelessly to establish democratic government in the fledgling nation. He was assassinated by his political rivals that same year, leaving Burma in the hands of incompetent and self-serving military oligarchs. He had been respected, hardworking, and staunchly committed to his values, characteristics his daughter would develop too. Aung San Suu Kyi grew up with her mother and two brothers. She attended a Methodist school where she developed a love for reading and languages. A few years later, her mother gained a governmental position in India, and the family relocated to New Delhi. At her new school, Suu Kyi delved into the world of politics, joining the debate club and writing tracts on democracy and encomiums to Gandhi. Her confidence and intelligence impressed people wherever she went. In 1964, she enrolled at the University of Oxford, where she attained a degree in politics. While there, Suu Kyi wore Burmese long yi almost every day and maintained her Buddhist faith and modesty, while excelling academically. Suu Kyi's grace, intelligence, and beauty charmed Michael Eris, a Tibetan scholar at the university. He doggedly pursued her, and in 1972 they married and soon had 2 children. For a brief time, Suu Kyi led a normal existence. She and Eris had a life typical of academics supporting their family. Things changed, however, in 1988, when her mother fell ill and she returned to her childhood home in Burma to take care of her. She assured the suspicious government that she had no political motives. However, 1988 turned out to be a political turning point in Burma. That year, calls for democracy mounted, and on August 8, 1988, the 8888 uprisings occurred. Students and citizens from across the spectrum were frustrated by the corruption of the government and declining condition of Burma, and carried out mass demonstrations throughout the country. The State Law and Order Restoration Council intervenes and murdered an estimated 3,000 to 10,000. Aung San Suu Kyi could no longer sit idle. The renowned daughter of Aung San delivered a pro-democracy speech at the Shwedagon Pagoda. There, she affirmed the need for nonviolent tactics and became an icon of the movement. She then helped establish the National League for Democracy. Fearing her growing prominence in democratic agitation, the regime placed her under house arrest in 1989. This was arguably the most fateful decision of Suu Kyi's life. Over the course of the next 21 years, she spent 15 of them under house arrest. She was frequently released only to be imprisoned again on the basis of bizarre and often fabricated accusations. She was left without any access to money, food, electricity, or communication with her family. She passed her time meditating and reading to sharpen her mind and distract from her deteriorating health. During this period, she earned international recognition and displayed remarkable character. In 1990, Suu Kyi was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, although the Burmese government forbade her from going to receive it. Yet, throughout the course of these 21 years, she also underwent some of the most intense ordeals of her life. In 1996, having just recently been released from house arrest, Suu Kyi was traveling with fellow NLD members through Rangoon when her motorcade was attacked by a crazed government-sponsored mob armed with crude weapons. In 1997, her husband was diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer. With only months left to live, he pleaded the government for a visa to visit his wife, but was denied. In 2003, having again been released from house arrest, Suu Kyi was on the way to a small town where she planned to establish NLD offices and youth groups. Her motorcade was again ambushed by a mob. many of her colleagues were murdered, and she was held hostage in her car for days. The government placed her back under house arrest, claiming it was for her own safety. Despite the psychological and physical suffering she personally endured for the sake of all Burmese people, she never complained or faltered. On the contrary, it encouraged her to work harder and intensify her commitment to peace and ethics. Fervent foreign and internal criticisms have gradually forced the Burmese generals to give up power. In 2015, Burma held the closest thing to democratic elections in its history. The NLD won a landslide victory and Suu Kyi won enough votes to become president. However, a constitutional clause, remaining from the days of absolute military rule, did not allow for that, and she was forced into a lesser position. Like her father and other notable visionaries, Suu Kyi is resilient, courageous, dedicated, and principled. But she is no ordinary political revolutionary. Aung San Suu Kyi overcame gender stereotypes, systematic hostility, and unprecedented suffering and isolation. The tale of Burma's selfless defender of democracy inspires those familiar with it to fight for their beliefs in Suu Kyi fashion, peacefully, gracefully, valiantly, and endlessly. It demonstrates that this is one path to achieving the impossible.